Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to House of Anderson. That's right, House of Wes Anderson. First we did Fincher, then we did Nolan, and then we were like, what are we going to do? So we started going more towards the quirky and less towards the dramatic boom and maybe serial killers that go to the Ozarks after they, gone girl themselves. So we are excited to start this new chapter with you guys, and I am excited to start this chapter with my co-host, John Mills. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually really looking forward to this because Anderson is a director that I admire, a director that I enjoy, but not a director I'm 100% familiar with in terms of I haven't seen everything. So part of this will be a journey of discovery for me. The stuff that I've seen, I've had definite reactions to. And so I'm glad to have the discussion here, and I am looking forward to uncovering some of the stuff that I have missed for one reason or another. Much like in our other episodes, my life is marked by, children being born and stuff like that, and so there are periods in my life where it was just a little bit harder to stay on top of every release, and so that's created one or two here that I haven't seen. And so I'm really looking forward to getting a full appreciation for his talents.
I think that's going to be really interesting dynamic moving forward because with Fincher and with Nolan, all three of us, previous co-host Brandon Shea Mutala, which he will not be joining us for Anderson, but hopefully he'll be joining us in the future. Just kind of, life just kind of got in the way. But we all saw Fincher, all of Fincher's movies and all of Nolan's movies, and some of us multiple times. But there was never a situation where we hadn't seen a movie, except for maybe me with Following. I think that was the only one I hadn't seen.
Yeah, same.
And
yeah.
You guys have. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And but me with Anderson, I am a big Wes Anderson fan. I've got a Wes Anderson coffee table book. I've got when my daughter was born, I bought her a Steve Zissou red cap, so that she could wear it when she was a baby, like that kind of thing. Like my wife and I are huge Wes Anderson fans, and we routinely go through his movies. Like we will get on a kick and we're like, okay, let's just watch all of Anderson films in a row. Like that's what we're gonna do throughout the week. But the movies that we usually skip are Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, which are the two that we're going to be talking about today. Mm-hmm, and some of you might have noticed that in the title, because this is going to be our first episode of the Houselights series, where we do more than one movie in one episode. And we didn't plan on doing that. We planned on doing Bottle Rocket as our first episode, which I have seen before. Had you seen Bottle Rocket before?
No, Bottle Rocket, I can honestly say Rushmore was my first exposure to Anderson. I had no idea Bottle Rocket even existed before I saw Rushmore.
Really? Okay.
Really?
Now, I've seen it before, and I did not like it in the least. And then as I watched it again for this podcast, I texted you, and I think we were watching it at the same time.
Yes, we were.
And I texted you, and I said, I was like, dude, I don't think there's enough content in this movie to actually fill an entire podcast episode about.
Yep. And I agreed because Bottle Rocket's really interesting because I think it's a vestige of the era that's now gone, where a filmmaker can have that sort of first film where not everything gels completely, but you can see the promise of their career. Like Kevin Smith with Clerks. Everybody, quote unquote, loved Clerks, but Clerks was not exactly one that caught on at large, but it was one that for the people that saw it, they loved it. And other people said, I might not be nuts about this, but this guy's doing something interesting here. And then you have, the 90s were all of those. Tarantino is the only one I can think of offhand in the 90s that was the one that like kicked in the door. And it was like, okay, this guy's, this is an incredible, he just knocks it out of the park walking in. Everybody else, you were used to a first film from a director being, okay, excellent effort. Let's see what you do when you have more. You know what? Rodriguez is another great example of, somebody, hey, he made this for $7,000. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till he gets an actual budget and see what he does with it, sort of thing.
Yeah, he literally wrote the book on indie filmmaking.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And look at the career he has now. Good grief.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and funny, and is from Texas, just like Wes Anderson.
There you go.
There's our
something in the water. Something in the water down there.
It all comes back. With Bottle Rocket, man, this is Scorsese's top 10 film of the 90s. Like, when I read that, I was just like, why? I'm like, Scorsese, what do you see in this film that I don't? This movie cost $7 million to make. That was another thing where I'm just like, where did the money go?
That's a good question.
Because Rushmore cost $10 million to make.
I know where it went. James Caan.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Jimmy Caan probably took a big portion of that because this was a key thing. Like a lot of 90s movies did this, where if you were indie and you were trying to sell your movie and you didn't have a lot of famous people behind the camera, you tried to get that one famous person in front that you could sell it, whether it was to the distributor, to the production company, or just to the fans, like just to the audience. Like, hey, James Caan's in this. I don't know how many people in the 90s were like, oh my God, a James Caan movie? Yes. Yeah,
that's and that's nothing against Caan.
No,
right?
Not at all.
But like by that point, his star had lost a little shine because this is post honeymoon in Vegas even. And it's like James Caan is definitely a star, but of a caliber by this point that would be actually just reaching back to Tarantino, contemporaneously, sort of a Harvey Keitel type, where it's like this
perfect example.
Not exactly the same tier he was in the late 70s, early 80s sort of thing, but still a name. Somebody you knew, and film nerds especially would go nuts for, oh my gosh, James Caan's in your movie. Okay, cool. I love him in The Godfather, that sort of thing.
And it always takes me off guard. Like when he pops up, I'm just like, it was such a weird part for him. Like he's like obsessed with Japanese culture, and like we see him and like fighting a dude in a diaper. It just.
Yeah, it's actually what's really interesting is since this was my first exposure and having seen Rushmore beforehand, and then, with Rushmore, Bill Murray becomes to Wes Anderson as Michael Caine is to Christopher Nolan. I had trouble watching this and not sitting there and mentally mapping Bill Murray in there and saying, I can see how Murray would have played this for Anderson.
I never thought of that before, but abso-friggin-lutely would that be the case? Like if Bottle Rocket took place after Rushmore,
yep,
Bill Murray 100% would have been in that role.
Yeah. I found actually, it's a charming little movie, but that's it. It's a charming little movie. It's the sort of thing where you would see in a small run theater, and you'd see it with your friends, and nobody would be raving about it. Nobody would have been nuts for it, but you would have said, oh, that was cute. I had a good time. And I think another part of that, the script doesn't support the quirkiness the same way later Anderson works too. The scripts get more intricate with Anderson. This is a little bit too simple for the quirky sort of thing that's laid on top of it.
Which is really interesting that you say that, because Rushmore was written before Bottle Rocket was made.
Stunning. Maybe we should be grateful for that because Rushmore is so much more, maybe this is they knew this one they could make with training wheels. I don't know. Maybe it just made more sense.
The first time that I watched this, I was talking with my wife and I was just like, man, there's no meat on this bone whatsoever. This meanders like any film that I could ever see meander. Like it has no direction. I don't even know what it's trying to say. I don't even know what journey these people are taking. It just feels like we're wasting time with these interesting characters, because I do think that these characters are interesting, but the plot is not good enough for these people. And I found out, I actually said out loud, I was like, man, this would have made a great short film. Well, it was a short film. It was a 13-minute black and white short film that they made and that they sent to Sundance, and Sundance loved it. Like, it was well received at Sundance. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, let's, I think Columbia was like, let's make it into a full-length feature film. And James L. Brooks was the producer on it, who kind of made it happen. And Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson did some rewrites and massaged the script, and you could tell that they just pad the runtime like crazy. And that's the problem, is that it was a great short film, bad feature film. Like, not all short films deserve to be created into something longer. Sometimes the thing that makes it great is because it's short. And this is definitely one of those times. And they submitted the film, Bottle Rocket, the feature-length film, to Sundance, and it was rejected.
Wow.
And so they had to rewrite and reshoot the opening, and then it got accepted by Sundance. And it was the worst reviewed, screen-tested film in Columbia's history to that date.
Wow. There's a distinction.
Pretty sure that's the reason why it was only released in 49 theaters.
Well, that would explain why I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. I mean, how do you expect to get your money back if you're only going to release it in 49 theaters? I think Columbia Pictures knew, like, this is not a good movie.
But see, that raises the interesting question, because do we even still exist in that sort of time frame where they give you another break, you get another break afterward, where that goes sort of disastrously, you could argue, for Anderson. But is it just the fact that he's able to say, or the studio heads are able to say, well, this maybe was a misguided project. He didn't flame out. He managed everything. He got it to the finish line. Let's give the kid another break, sort of thing.
Well, I think it goes to the power of the Rushmore script. I think that was the main interest in it, was they actually had a bidding war on the Rushmore script. And originally it was going to be with New Line Cinema, but they couldn't agree on a budget. And then so New Line dropped it, and then Disney bought it out just purely on the strength of the script. And it was probably a situation, I don't know this, but it was probably a situation of Wes Anderson saying, this is my script, I'm going to direct it. So if you want the script, you have to take me. And then he proved himself.
It's so out of character for Disney just to buy things outright and and own them. That's really weird. I hope that, I hope it plays out for them if they do that again. I don't know, give it a shot.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was Touchstone at the time.
Yeah. Well, everybody knew that was you can't say certain words in a Disney movie, so we released it as a Touchstone film.
Exactly.
I used to actually really love seeing the Touchstone logo come across, because I was like, oh, good, somebody's gonna say a naughty word in here. Like that was basically the distinction.
I really enjoyed Luke Wilson's character in this. Dignan, I didn't really dig too terribly much. No pun intended. But I know that's the point. Like, you're supposed to like the protagonist, and, Owen Wilson kind of is a little bit of an antagonist at certain times, but I thoroughly enjoyed Inez. I thought she was incredibly charming and realistic. Like, I really enjoyed the opening scene where, like Owen Wilson wanted to bust him out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And he's just like, look at him, man. Look how excited he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great opening. I mean, you say they had to go and redo the opening. I'm like, that's great, because that was one of the best parts of the entire experience. But to your point about meandering, yeah, there's the whole thing with it feels like the whole landscaping company as a front for criminal activity was one of those ideas where they said, oh, that's a good idea, put that in there, without thinking through every step of the process, how that would look like, how that would hold up. And they were more concerned, again, with just making the characters clever, as opposed to making everything work in a story sense or have any sense. Like, the whole landscaping company thing is cute and quirky, but it just sort of exists. It's just there, as opposed to being anything substantive, I guess.
And part of me, when they introduced that, I keep thinking, like, why isn't that a main focus? Like, why
Right.
isn't that where, like, you introduce the characters because they're in a front of a landscaping company? Like, you that's what you see. And maybe these are two guys who are trying to make it out on their own, and they just stumble back to the. I don't want to rewrite the film, but
Right.
like, it's just those. There's so many things in there where I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? Are we following three guys who are trying to make it on their own? Are we following a landscaping company as a front? Are we following two guys on a road trip and where one of them falls in love at a motel? Like, what are we doing? Like, it had no idea what movie it wanted to be. No idea what movie it wanted to be.
Yeah. And that's, I think, why we didn't want to talk for the whole time about it, is like, what else is there really to delve into with it?
What else can I say about this? You
Yeah.
know, like, what else can I say about this film other than what we just said?
And that's what's really weird, is when you love a director, you don't want to ever say that one of their movies, like, I wouldn't really recommend this to anybody. If somebody was like, do you want to see, should I see Bottle Rocket? I'd be like, no, you don't really need to. You can just start with Rushmore and go from there.
Well, you think about, the other two directors that we talked about, Fincher and Nolan. With Nolan, you have Following. I wouldn't recommend Following to anybody, but at least there was something to talk about. It had a style. It had, like, it had a shtick. Like, it had one storyline. And that's where you needed. That's what you could analyze. But with Alien 3, I don't think that's really a fair comparison because it's a franchise film.
Right.
And so, like, there's a pre-existing audience there, and there's mythology that's already built in and everything like that. So, like, you could recommend that to people if they're Aliens fans, but at the same time, even though I really liked it, it is not beloved by fans whatsoever. Like, it's a universally, I think, despised, and even by its director.
The one thing I'll say, just so we're not just purely beating up on Bottle Rocket, and we've tossed a few compliments at it, it's so clear that Anderson already knows his visual style here, and it's not as refined as Rushmore, but we've already got the symmetrical shots. We've already got, and what really jumps out is the surety of the camera work for a first-time director, because you have something where he is. I think Tarantino benefits later from more collaboration with his director of photography. And Smith eventually figures out how to move a camera. Whereas with this, Anderson, I think, very much exudes a control of how the camera determines your perception of the character and what's going on in the scene, because he really lays things out. I was impressed, as always, with an Anderson movie, of how well things were split up on the screen, how people were framed, how one character could be foreground and the other one back, and there isn't a whole bunch of split diopter trickery going on.
Yeah.
There, like, he's got a visual style already with this that's creeping through, that if it had never developed from here, you would have said, oh, it's passable, it's good. But because I can see where it's going, like, I found more to hook into. So I definitely think it was better to have seen this after having been exposed to Anderson previously, because that visual flair, I'm able to sort of plug into it and figure out, okay, that's where he was then. I know where this is going to go next.
What's crazy to me, and I know that this isn't unheard of, but it can be uncommon, is that he's had the same DP, Robert Yeoman, for every single film he's ever done.
That's impressive.
When you think about Wes Anderson, you think about the cinematography. Like, you think about everything that you just said. You think about the shot selection, the framework, the center frame, like, you think about his normal speed to slow down signature, his underwater photography. So much of his style, he has so many signatures that are, like, the way that the costumes work, the way that the production design works, the way, like, it's written, it's directed, of course, like, it's all, it takes a village. It's him, and it takes a whole crew of people. But when you think about it, the first thing that pops in your brain definitely is the cinematography. Just to have that kind of relationship and to find your guy, to find your person right off the bat, you're like, no, this is the guy I'm going to work with and evolve with for, 20 some years. It's fantastic. I mean, I would love to have the two of them sit down. I would love to see an interview with the two of them, or like a Q&A, a night of conversation, those kind of things.
Yeah, and it would be really interesting, though, because, when you put it that way, because, going back to talking about House of Nolan, when Pfister left, it was really, everybody was curious, what happens now? And then you find out there's direct continuity, and it's like, oh, okay, fine. So there is almost a desire then to say to Anderson, like, say I win the Powerball or something like that, drive up to his house and say, here's $20 million, work with one other director of photography. Just make this personal project for me. You write the script, you cast the movie, but you can't use the same guy, and go, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and then like Yeoman would show up like, what the hell, dude? What did I ever do to you? Like, what?
I'd pay him to go on vacation to make everybody happy.
I think that's cool. I think that would be okay.
If I've got Powerball money, why not? Right?
So Bottle Rocket was in 96. So let's go ahead and fast forward real quick, just 2 more years to 1998. Mm-hmm. And that is where we get Rushmore. Now, you have seen Rushmore before this podcast.
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
I don't really dig on Rushmore.
Shame on you.
But you told me, you're like, oh no.
Yep.
I friggin' love Rushmore. So let's go ahead and start this conversation of like we normally do on the Houselights series. When did you first see Rushmore?
In a theater. I saw it with the girl I was dating at the time, Erin. And Erin was, I haven't talked to her in years, but she enjoyed quirky stuff. She was the person that I saw Harold and Maude. She was actually the person who got me to start reading the Beat writers, and Kerouac in specific. And so Erin had a very definite influence on some of the tastes that I plug into to this day. And I'm grateful for it. All I ever really did was educate her a lot about Star Wars in exchange. So, that's cool. And we decided to go to Rushmore. We love to go to the movies together. It was a cheap date sort of thing back then, at least.
Back then.
Yeah. Back then, kids, when movie tickets, wow. I actually, just to roll it back, just so you know, I remember the scandal a year later when The Phantom Menace came out, and the movie theater we bought tickets at announced as we were in line, they said, by the way, we're raising the ticket prices because so many people want to see this. They basically flat out said that. We said, what? And they said, yeah, it's going to be $8.25 per ticket. So everybody's pulling out their cash and like looking through and it's like, do I have enough for all the tickets that I want now? That sort of thing. But think about that. Movies were at that point where we were cheaper than $8 because that was a 50-cent increase a year later. So anyway,
I could just see him saying like, oh yeah, what are you going to do? Not see Star Wars, you bunch of monkeys? Like,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and get out of line. And so we go and we saw it and I fell in love. So did she. We fell in love with Rushmore so much that the following day we went back and saw it again.
Okay, so with this type of film, you went back and said like, okay, we're going to see this again.
Yes, we saw it 2 days in a row. Like any other nerd growing up, event movies I would go see 2 days in a row, that sort of thing.
Right.
Because your friends would all go see it, or your friends hadn't seen it and you wanted to hang out, so you're like, yeah, fine, I'll go see it again. But Rushmore was a conscious, I want to go see that movie again. And it, from the beginning, I can't heap enough praise on this. This movie contains so much of the wit and whimsy and charm and phenomenal music selection and characterizations and performance. There's not a single thing in this movie that I think strikes a false chord. And this was the Bill Murray Renaissance for a lot of people. And it definitely was for me. And I fell in love with his performance so much. It was that sort of thing where you said, oh, I didn't know you could do this. Mm-hmm. Great. I forgot how great you were in a movie. I'm so happy you're back, sort of thing. And Like everybody, I mean, Brian Cox as the put upon headmaster when he's had a stroke and he's in bed and Max comes in to talk to him. What do you want? It's the first time he's spoken in days. Like, I remember just guffawing in the movie theater, even just rewatching it for our discussion. This has the signature of why I keep going back to Wes Anderson movies, which is missing in Bottle Rocket in a large way. There is all of this quirkiness, there's the humor, there's the wit, there's the charm, there's all of these things I said before. And then at the end, you're completely disarmed. And when that emotional punch comes, I mean, I remember seeing it the first time getting a little teary because that emotional punch came and you're not expecting it. And you suddenly realize, wow, I care so much about all of the people on screen right now. And I'm so happy I spent time with them. And I care so much about what happened, and just leaves you in an emotional place. And I know I've rambled, but that's how much
I wanted to hear that. Yeah.
So what did you see it in the theater?
Oh my gosh, no. I would have been 12 at the time, and
so
I would not have had enough interest. I didn't have enough interest at 12 in these types of films.
All right, fine.
My palate in film didn't really grow until probably about high school is when I started really going out and
I forget about our age difference sometimes. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. I didn't do the math in my head. Of course you didn't see this in the movie theater,
Yeah.
Duh.
Like as a 12-year-old, I'm not going to be like, let's go see the latest Wes Anderson pick. He did a kind of a crap job with the first one.
Although I could see you at like Max Fisher really resonating with you at 12.
See, that's the funny part, is because in middle school and high school, I was very much the kid who was precocious and like thought he was way more mature than he was. I had the bag as a backpack to carry my books in instead of a backpack. It wasn't a briefcase, but it kind of looked like one. Like I was that nerd. Like I wore black all the time. I was well read, and I was just a complete loser, but had the facade of confidence. So yeah, you'd think I would relate or like Max Fisher, but he's actually the main reason why I don't really like this movie that much, is because I cannot stand him. Like I can't handle him when he's on screen. And I don't like his character. And I know that there's certain aspects of the character that you're not supposed to enjoy, obviously. But it's hard for you. I don't like children in film. I don't like children in film. And even though I think he was 16, no, he was 18 when this was released. So that I think probably like 16 or 17 when they filmed it. I don't like precocious kids in movies. And it's just like nails on a chalkboard to me. I usually avoid movies that actually have kids in it. You'd think I would resonate more with it, but I actually enjoyed this film more this time in preparation for the podcast than I ever had before. And that's actually been a common theme with my viewing history with Anderson films, is that I don't always enjoy them the first time I watch them. Even though I call myself a Wes Anderson film fan, and I do really enjoy his movies, I don't always enjoy them the first time I see them. Now, some of them I do. But Rushmore, first time I watched it, didn't like it at all. I'm like, nope, not for me, not funny, not like, this is boring. I don't like the characters. This is weird. I think I didn't see this until I saw Life Aquatic. Life Aquatic was my first Wes Anderson film. And I didn't even like that the first time I saw it. And now it's my favorite. But I kept going back to Rushmore because like so many people kept talking about it, about how great it is and how it's just it's a touchstone for them. Like fellow Nerd Party member Sean, he freaking loves Rushmore. And he once asked me, he's like, hey, can we say hand job on the network? Is that cool?
That is, I will say, because this is one of the few movies where I've owned it so many times in the different editions and the Criterion Collection and everything. And I remember watching it with the commentary years and years ago. And they talked about how when they were writing the script, it almost became a contest to see how many times they could put the term hand job in. And they said, we don't know for sure, but we think we're the movie where the word the phrase hand job is used more than any other on the face of the planet. And it was a point of pride for them that they managed to do it. And I think that possibly the reason it resonates more for you now, but I know the reason it resonated for me is I did see aspects of myself and the way I was growing up in Max Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the same scale, but that sort of nerdy, too self-assured to cover up my insecurities, self-important, think I've got the world figured out, love of older women sort of aspect where it is.
I shared that with Max Fisher hard at that age. Yeah.
But I really think that it's just one of those things where I feel like I know this kid and I wish I could go back in time and give him a hug and be like, hey, come on. It's okay. You can straighten it out. It's okay. But that's the whole appeal of Max Fisher to me and the whole appeal of everything is Anderson brings something to this that's reality, but hyper reality. Not hyper reality in the sense of the old artistic school of how they did the paintings or anything like that. But it's almost as if David Lynch had a sense of humor instead of just being terrifying. This is what he would do. Like Anderson is in that more accessible Fincher weirdness zone. And I think that really helps the picture a lot too. That sort of offbeat, quirky, this would never happen in the real world, but I believe it would happen in the real world because of the way you've constructed things.
Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson have gone on record to say that their intention was to create a heightened reality where it exists in our world, but it's just kind of amped up a little bit. And they said that they wanted to make it like a Roald Dahl book. Yeah. Like where Roald Dahl kind of has that amped up reality where things are almost normal, but not quite. But they're consistently that way. You don't just have like one quirky thing where you're like, that would never happen. It's just consistently quirky and crazy things that happen that make things a little bit off. And I can definitely see that with Rushmore. And you can, like, once you hit Rushmore from Anderson's filmography, you know how when we said, like, once you get to Prestige, you see modern Nolan?
Yeah.
I think Anderson hit that pretty hard and pretty early on with Rushmore. Like, when you see Rushmore, you're like, oh, well, there goes Royal Tenenbaums. There's Life Aquatic. Once you get to Moonrise, you start to see his modern take on himself. And then you get Budapest and everything like that.
See, and that's why I think it's interesting that you didn't plug into it previously. Not a criticism, but this is just the thing where it clicked so effortlessly from the get-go. And I almost wonder, in a sense, if I'd never encountered this movie. I think encountering this movie was a hugely positive thing for the way I approached film as a whole. And maybe that's why I still have so much affection for it. Again, I had seen Harold and Maude, and this is very much in that Harold and Maude zone, which, to your point, Harold and Maude is the exact same sort of sensibility of heightened reality, to use your term. It never betrays its quirkiness, but it exists in the real world. Watching it this time, having that in mind, I could see certain camera choices that seemed like it jumped from that 70s vibe of the quirky 70s movie that Harold and Maude was. And having this love triangle between, the
50-year-old man.
Yeah, right. The 30-something teacher. But even one of the things I think where I really fell in love, like I remember seeing it the first time, it started off and I said, oh, this is cute. This is funny. Haha. Where is this going to go? And I think the point it always clicks into overdrive with me is that absolutely beautiful moment where it starts playing Nothing in This World Can Stop Me Worrying About That Girl by the Kinks. And Bill Murray is at the boy's birthday party, just throwing golf balls into the green pool, smoking a cigarette, drinking alone, while his wife is flirting with the tennis instructor and the kids are milling around and his his monstrous sons are doing their thing and everything. And there's not a word. It's music and it's imagery. And it's just, you understand everything that's wrong in Herm's life and how unhappy he is. And in that handful of minutes, it informs everything that happens afterward in the film. And it's amazing because how many people get hung up in, I have to lay out there that his wife isn't faithful. I have to lay out there that his kids don't love him. I have to lay out there that he's having a midlife crisis. I have to have this character say this. And instead, I get basically a truncated music video of him drunk going up to the diving board and jumping in and mock drowning himself.
It's fantastic visual storytelling. And I think so many filmmakers rely on exposition to move the story along, and they find little tricks here and there to hide exposition in dialogue where they tell instead of show. And this is one of those great examples of show, not tell. And because it informs the audience, exactly like you said, like it shows you and tells you everything that you need to know about this character, even the size of the pool. You're like, holy crap, that's a large pool. That's a nice house. Like it shows that he's rich, even though, like we've already established that, but it shows his lifestyle. It shows that it's a dirty pool. Like they didn't even bother to clean the pool for the party. Like that's how little he cares. And yeah, like you said, it just all those things. One thing is apparently Bill Murray didn't like his character's sons. Like he actually found them annoying, just like his character was supposed to find them annoying. And so most of the time when you see him insult or lose it on the twins, apparently that was improv and sometimes a real reaction.
Well, that's great to know, because I absolutely love when they're going along and he says, why don't you invite him to the party? He's like, Dad, no, girls are going to be there. Yeah, Dad, pull your head out of your ass. And he just reaches back and you don't see anything, but you see him reaching back, trying to grab his son's collar. Or when they're playing with the locks and he's looking through the window and he just open the door. Like you see, this is a dangerous, like he's ready to just tear that door open. And the only thing that's keeping everybody safe is social expectation at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, that is sort of the next level thing, too, with the movie. If you subtract Murray, if you have another actor in there, the movie's cute and the movie's good, and I still probably really, really like it. Murray, I think, is that I don't know whether he came into this knowing in a calculated way, okay, I know what I can do with this. The stories I've always heard is that Murray is extremely picky about the scripts that he is given, that he is very conscious of what it will do for him in his career and what he can bring to the project and whether he thinks it can be successful. And I can absolutely see that on display here, that he saw an opportunity where Bill Murray could make a difference in this film. And I think the film is all the better for it. Just even his mannerisms, when I love the sequence that starts with him sitting in the hotel room after his wife is divorcing him, and the first bee shows up, and then the other bee shows up, and you see all of the bees everywhere. He's like, rah, rah, rah. And he turns around and he sees the little hose that's feeding the bees, and he figures out it's Max. And there's this close up of him, and he smiles a little bit, and then it just turns to this vile anger. And he plays that expression so perfectly. And it's one of those things where I think sometimes Bill Murray has been cheated of awards that he deserves. He got a lot of praise for this.
Yeah.
But if you want to define best supporting performance in a film, I would pull this out of the catalog and say, what this guy did with this movie, that's a person you can't live without in this film. That's a best supporting performance right there.
He was one of the main reasons why when Touchstone, they knew that they had something, but they didn't know what until they saw the finished product, because originally it was gonna be released in February because there was a big Christmas slot that year. And then they watch the movie and they're like, holy crap, like this is great. Bill Murray is amazing. And so they did a special limited release before Christmas just for 1 week so that they could submit him for an Oscar nom. And it just shows you like what they knew what they had specifically with Bill Murray. Did you know that Bill Murray doesn't have an agent?
I think that's terrific.
Yeah, he doesn't have an agent. All there's an answering machine service. Like there's an answering service that he has where anybody can call the number and say, hey, I got a great idea for a movie, or like I'm working with so and so, here's the script. Like here's the script pitch and everything like that. And if he thinks it's interesting, he'll call you back.
That's terrific. That is, I think, the way this could get me killed by, CAA or something like that. But I think every actor should do that, honestly. I mean, how many times do you hear about stuff falling through because the agent can't make it work, or they, all of that sort of thing? And that just, I think that speaks to exactly how much he cares. That this isn't filtered through. This isn't, oh, come on, this is a big payday. This, I think, makes his selection process a little more pure. But as much fun as it is to heap praise on him, I think a performance that really gets overlooked is Seymour Castle's performance as Bert.
I always found his performance interesting because I'm just like, what kind of dad is this? Like, what on earth is going on here?
But this is that heightened reality sort of thing. We know the mother died, and Bert looks a little old to be Max's dad. So just that immediately brings in all of this sort of question about their past life and stuff like that. And I suppose we need the Rushmore connected universe to establish in canon how he met his mother and how they fell in love and why Max was born when he was. But we'll just have to, say goodbye to that. Maybe, I mean, it is a Disney property, so maybe we'll get one. But Castle, number one, is just a phenomenal character actor. I love just what he brings to this role because of the fact that it's not, I wouldn't put the word quirky on it. It would be easy to have this played as the quirky barber dad, but instead he brings this air to him of somebody who's just so supportive that Max is all, you can tell Max is all he has in his life. Max is his life. And so we don't see him scold or yell at Max for getting bad grades. We see him continually saying, you can figure it out. I believe in you. And in a sense, it's this bizarre type of version of the type of dad that everybody says they want. We never see him being stern. We never see him lecture. We never see him lose his temper about a 37 on a test. We never see him anything but really relaxed and loving.
He even says, like, did you ever think about trying out that school thing again?
Right.
Like, yeah, it's just, like you said, I think you're right. It's the archetype of what kids think they want in a dad, but absolutely should not have in a dad.
Right.
Like you need someone to kind of ride your ass sometimes in order to get those good grades, in order to stop goofing off.
He also gets one of the best exchanges in the entire film at the end when I think it's Patrick says, I thought you were a neurosurgeon. He goes, no, I'm a barber, but it's easy to get them confused. Right? He just shrugs it off. And
that delivery was pure Castle too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, you have to give Luke Wilson a lot of credit because as I'm sure you know, but in case anybody doesn't, the whole reason he's in the movie is because he helped come up with a line that made it to the trailers that everybody loved, which was, nice nurse's uniform there. They're OR scrubs. Oh, are they? Luke Wilson apparently helped Owen Wilson come up with that line. And so they were like, okay, you got to play that scene. And so that's how he became Patrick. If I'm remembering my stories properly.
No, I didn't know that. And I think it's Peter, Dr. Peter Flynn.
Peter. But, well, Max doesn't care about his name, neither do I.
I love how even when he's trying to make up and like be the nice guy, he's just like, can you tell what's his name to that I'm sorry or something like that?
Yeah, I love, but that dinner scene also I think is just absolute magic because of the fact that when Max says, "Oh, are they?" Murray's choking laugh where you can tell he wants to laugh so bad. And, it's that awkward situation. And, I think it has everything that Bottle Rocket does, everything we pinged Bottle Rocket for missing. The clear focus, the through line, which character is which in the hierarchy, who do we care about, where are we going, how does this resolve itself, what's the point? All of that's here. All of that is in this script. And I remember buying this. I have this soundtrack memorized. I absolutely adore everything. I think Mark Mothersbaugh does an incredible job with the score, getting it just whimsical enough.
Originally, Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson wanted the entire soundtrack to be from the Kinks. Like they wanted it to just be filled with the Kinks songs.
That would have been a fine choice, but I have to tell them that using the Who's A Quick One While He's Away was an inspired bit of filmmaking, because that's one of the greatest songs that a rock and roll band ever recorded. The live version is actually the authoritative version. Just every the choosing of it and having that pause where you see Herm giving the description of Max to the police, and then the song starting up again as Max gets paraded. He gets frog walked out in front of the school, just like this total badass villain sort of thing. And it's just, I just think it's so brilliant on so many levels, as you can tell.
That's Olivia Williams as Rosemary, Miss Cross. I think she's often overlooked in this. When you think Rushmore, you don't really think Miss Cross, even though she's part of the triangle. She's the female lead. She's one of the top three people in the film, and she's the object of affection of these two men. Oh, one man, one boy. And Olivia Williams is an actress that I'm not trying to say this in a hurtful way, but I always expected her to be bigger. I always expected to see her a whole lot more. Maybe not bigger is the right word, but I expected to see her a lot more. Now, she's been consistently working. She's never been wanted for work, because she's always doing something, whether it's TV or movies, and she'll have consistent TV work, and she'll be in TV movies, but she'll be in a lot of movies. If you go to her IMDb page, it's absolutely filled to the brim with work. But you can really only mention her. When you think of her, you're just oh yeah, Rushmore and Sixth Sense. That's it. I dare you to name something else, off the top of your head that has Olivia Williams in it. And again, I'm not saying that to be mean, because I think she's very talented.
Agree.
And she does a fantastic job in Rushmore, and she does a great job in Sixth Sense. And it's just, she's one of those talents where you're just if you showed me Rushmore back then in 98, I would have gone, yeah, we're going to see a lot more Olivia Williams. We're going to see a lot more of her.
I agree. It reminds her career reminds me of Guy Pearce, actually, especially after L.A. Confidential and Memento. Everybody thought, oh, this guy's going to be winning Oscars every year. He's going to be in a blockbuster every 5. But for some reason, even though he's working consistently and has a great career, and so she's much the same way. And I agree with you. She gives the heart to this movie that it needs. And the way she plays, there are 3 moments in specific that she really, her whole performance, but there are 3 moments in specific that always jump out at me. One is when Max has faked his bike accident, and she starts, she's very vulnerable in that moment, but then she turns to powerful, get out. I can't believe you manipulated me like this. But she has this humanity about her in that scene, that she's so fragile in those moments that it's effectively what turns you against Max at that point. Max is where you realize, the lines he crosses earlier are funny, even though we're talking about him cutting brake lines and stuff like that. But it's almost slapsticky humor when he's going head to head with Bill Murray.
Right.
Whereas with her, the way she plays that, you don't get angry and you don't reject anybody, but she really puts the cherry on top in terms of how far Max has gone in that moment. He's truly betrayed her in that moment beyond anything else he's done. When she steps out for a cigarette with Bill Murray at the last play, and she doesn't draw any attention to it, but she makes the choice to just quietly put her hand through his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this sort of healing that takes place, and it's not spoken, and the camera doesn't move, and nobody's expression changes, but she manages that whole scene perfectly. And then at the very end, when they're going out to the dance floor, she has this sense of warmth about her. And I think it's her emotion in that ending, in that final scene, that absolves Max, where she's happy because Max has completed he has become mature by the end. He's completed his journey. And she's the one that recognizes it and sort of benights him at the end. So I think there's a lot of nobility in her character as well. And that's not to take anything from any other scenes, but those are always the three moments that jump out.
When Max tries to kiss Miss Cross, I always fast forward that scene.
Really?
I can't handle that scene. It bothers the hell out of me. It's so cringy to me. And I think that's another reason why I don't like Max and why I don't enjoy watching Max, is because so much of what he does is cringy. And it's like watching certain episodes of The Office where you're just like, oh my God, I don't know about this one, guys. I don't know. And you just like catch yourself closing your eyes when you have the power to walk away or stop it. You just keep closing your eyes.
I guess I just have higher cringe tolerance then.
I think you definitely do. I have a low cringe tolerance, but one thing that my wife, she's just as big as an Anderson fan as I am, but she doesn't like this movie either. Like when we watched it last night, she's like, yeah, with this film, all I see is just 3 inappropriate relationships.
Well, what's funny is this movie came out and it was like, there've been a couple of stories, but it's become more prevalent, unfortunately, about these revelations about teacher-student relationships that happen.
Well, she's a teacher too, as you know. My wife, and so when she was kind of like, oh, geez, like she would never even get even close to what Miss Cross did.
Of course, but you also have stories in the press like Mary Kay Letourneau had happened by this point, and so you have, and there have been plenty of other teacher-student relationships since, where when they hit the headlines, you say to yourself, oh dear, why? What happened? And it's, so I think maybe that also, it's riding on that rail sort of thing, where it's like, this is the most harmless way they could approach that topic.
That's true. Yes. I mean, there's definite inappropriate things happened, and even things that were shown in a lighthearted way, you're like, no, teachers shouldn't be doing that in her free time. Not, not with Max. Of course. But like you said, like being a heightened reality and everything like that, if they wanted to broach that topic, which this is the focus of the film, if that's what they wanted to talk about and convey or show as a big part of it, this is the most harmless way they could have done it without any real emotional damage being done to either character. Long-term damage, I should say. Right.
Well, and there's something to be said for the fact that, she's a wounded character. Herm is a wounded character, and they sort of get sucked into Max's. They're not prepared for Max, right? You take Brian Cox as headmaster, and he basically tries to warn Bill Murray in the beginning because it with one of the I still laugh so hard in the beginning where Bill Murray's talking to him and he says, "That's a pretty sharp little kid," and there's a beat. That's one of the worst students we've ever had. And it's like, it's just this beautiful moment of, wait, what? And that's how this all works. You know, the people that Max has around him aren't prepared for him in this movie.
I loved it when Bill Murray just kind of looks at Max for a little bit and goes, "What's the secret, Max?"
Yeah. Yes. And I think we would be remiss. I know that we're, as we like to say, rounding third here, but I think we would be remiss to not give a special shout out to Nerd Party member Lee with his countrymen represented here so well in Rushmore. And putting the question out there on the airwaves for him, is that what all people in Scotland are like, or was this an abnormal character?
Well, I've seen Lee, and he has both of his ears.
Okay, well yes, but I don't know whether he plays with knives or punches people.
Has a broken arm for no reason.
But I love that. That's one of those quirky things. It's like, why? You know, it's like the age of Max's dad and stuff like that. It just is, and that's how life is, right? That's what makes us a fun surreality is. People aren't walking down the street and you see somebody with a broken arm. It's not like you wave them down and be like, "Would you please tell me the entire story for the broken arm?" They just walk by with a cast. It's like, "Oh, that guy's got a broken arm."
Also, why on earth is Connie Nielsen in this film? What?
That's a good question as well. But I guess like Wonder Woman, she was laying low in history at this point.
There you
go. That's my explanation. No, but I think she has a delightful cameo, basically.
One person who I think is a delight that you don't really think about when you think about Rushmore is the guy who played Dirk Calloway.
Oh, yeah.
Dirk is fantastic. Like, I love this kid. Like, he just lays it on perfectly. Like, it's so funny because this kid is so young, but you're just like, no, he gets what a Wes Anderson film is before Wes Anderson knew what a Wes Anderson film was. I just feel like Dirk was built for it, like Mason Gamble.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is a Wes Anderson film. Okay, here you go. Here's my performance.
But he also gets one of the best lines in the entire movie. "Friends like you, who needs friends?" And then spitting on Bill Murray's car and walking off. Like, it's so perfect.
Like, if a kid that age spat on my car in anger, I wouldn't even be angry. Like, I would be impressed. I'd be like, wow, man, I got to watch out for this kid.
Well, just like Herm is. Herm is bewildered, but he's like, yeah, I kind of deserve that. Okay.
He, Mason Gamble also played young Vincent in Gattaca.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Another overlooked little gem of a film.
Oh man, Gattaca is so good. One of my favorite films.
Very relevant. Very relevant.
All right. Now, okay, before we close out, there's two more things I want to talk about how Bill Murray is just freaking awesome.
Okay.
And this is behind the scenes stuff. So Wes Anderson was just absolutely in awe of Bill Murray. Because when he first met him and he's like, I can't believe that he's actually going to be on this film that I'm directing. This is crazy. And so he was always reverent of him. Like, whenever he gave Bill Murray direction, he would always get real close and kind of whisper it to him. Mm-hmm. And just because like he didn't want to show, he didn't want to like be in front of the crew like trying to tell Bill Murray what to do. And Murray noticed this and would visibly defer to Anderson. He would say like, great idea, or say like, oh, let's do that. And like he'd help, carry stuff on set, and he would like joke around with the crew and like try to build up Wes Anderson's confidence, basically. And cool. Another thing that he did was Disney refused to buy a helicopter shot for him. That like I can't remember where it was in the movie, but like there was something where he absolutely needed a helicopter shot, and he was really dismayed because it was going to cost something like $75,000 to do the helicopter work. And he was just really sad that he wasn't able to get it into the movie. Bill Murray went up to him, wrote him a blank check and said, here you go, just take care of it.
That's fantastic. I love the stories about Bill Murray being Bill Murray that are out there. Those stories are heartwarming and wonderful, especially because the antithesis of it, as you tell these wonderful stories about Bill Murray on set, it triggers the antithesis story of Tim Burton, a director being given a big budget, just starting out in his career. It's his second film, and trying to give direction to Jack Palance, who comes storming out of the bathroom in Grissom's penthouse and starts tearing Burton apart, calling him a punk. How dare you? I know my cues, all of this stuff, and just laying down the law because he was Mr. Big Star and everything like that. And it was Nicholson that had to come on and be like, all right, it's okay. I got this. All right, I got you back, Tim. And so it was Nicholson that carried Burton through that experience. So hearing that Bill Murray, because he's unquestionably the star on the set, hearing that he cares that much to make, it speaks again to that whole thing about, he doesn't have an agent. He cares. Mm-hmm. He wants it to succeed. And he cares about other people. Like it's just, you hear so many stories about people who are just absolute psychopaths in Hollywood that, I love hearing when they're not.
Right. It's so refreshing when they're not. I think that's the only kind of behind the scenes stuff that I want to know. Like, I don't care who they're sleeping with. I don't care what they're wearing when they went to go grocery shopping. I don't care about that stuff. I really don't. But if I find out that they're a really nice person because they do nice things on set, then I'm cool. I'm cool with that. Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, when you do the profile, tell me who brought donuts.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our episode. We covered Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, and I cannot wait until we get to the next episode because, oh my gosh, the Royal Tenenbaums. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, folks, masterpiece. I like Royal Tenenbaums. It's such a fantastic film. Is this one that you have seen or not seen, John?
Yes, and I can't wait to share the story of the day that I saw this movie.
Ooh.
Can't
but
wait
you'll
to
have to tune in next week to find out, folks. So until then, thank you so much for joining us. Please go to thenerdparty.com for all of our backlogged episodes. You can also find John on Aggressive Negotiations on the network, and you can find a backlogged, some archive shows of mine on thenerdparty.com. Just go ahead and search my name, look for Nerd Nuptial or Second Contact or Punch It, whatever you want to look for. You can also find John at kesseljunkie.com, as well as your social media platform of choice. Just search for Kessel Junkie, and you can find me, the Insane Robin, on Letterboxd and social media and everything like that. But please tune in next week so we can talk about the Royal Tenenbaums.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.